William Wordsworth, this is a very well-known name in the field of English literature, who is known or who is famous for its romantic poems. And definitely William Wordsworth is known as a romantic poet. Right? A lot of and a great number of poems he wrote, like I Wandered Lonely as a Crowd, The Prelude, The Solitary Reaper, which is my one of favorite poems, The World is Too Much with Us, We Are Seven, and Line Composed upon Westminster Bridge, To a Butterfly, many more poems. And today I have brought a poem for class 7 students written by William Wordsworth, and the name of the poem is Lucy Gray. This particular poem is a mixture of many kind of feelings, like fear, full of terror, okay, and mixed with love, emotion, obedience, sweetness, innocence, all these emotions are there in this poem. So class 7 students, please take the book, take a pencil and take a highlighter if you have, so that you can mark down all the keywords that I'm going to tell you in this video. Without wasting any more time, let's get into the chapter. The poem is a lengthy poem, consists 16 stanzas, and each stanza consists 4 lines, okay. Let's get started. First stanza. Often I had heard of Lucy Gray, and when I crossed the wild, I chanced to see at break of day the solitary child. So see, the poem starts with a jerk. From the very first line, from the very beginning line, the poet is talking about Lucy Gray. In fact, without giving a single idea, without giving a single concept about Lucy Gray, like who is this girl, where she lives, and all these things. Even we know nothing about Lucy Gray, but the poet starts talking about Lucy Gray. So from this, we can make out one point, is that Lucy Gray is a famous girl. She is a well-known girl. That is the reason the poet started talking about Lucy Gray without giving any information about that particular girl. So I had heard of Lucy Gray, and when I crossed the wild, okay, I chanced to see at break of day. At break of day, key phrase, please mark it. The solitary child, another key phrase or keyword, please mark it. That means Lucy Gray is a child who is solitary. Solitary means lonely or lonesome. So this poem also arises a question mark, that a little child who is alone. Lucy Gray, she is a little child, but she does not have any friend. Why? And the poet used to see that girl at the break of day. That means when a day ends, at that point of time, the poet can see Lucy Gray, okay. Second stanza. So this particular stanza simply strikes up curiosity about Lucy Gray and sets her up as an important figure. Okay, we can understand from the very first line that Lucy Gray is going to be the central character. Lucy Gray is going to be the central figure of this particular poem. That is the reason, without any hesitation, the poet starts talking about Lucy Gray, and the poem starts with a jerk, as because we know nothing about Lucy Gray. Now the second stanza. No mate, no comrade Lucy knew, she dwelt on a wide moor, another keyword. The sweetest thing ever grew beside a humanto, another key phrase. So as in the very first stanza, the poet has told that Lucy Gray is solitary. She does not have any friend. Same thought is being written continuously in the second stanza, that no mate, no comrade Lucy Gray knew. That means Lucy didn't have any friend, she didn't have any companion, okay. She dwelt on a wide moor. Where did Lucy Gray dwell, or where did Lucy Gray live? On a wild moor. The sweetest thing that ever grew beside a human door. So one more information has been given about the girl, that the girl does not live inside the house. Please get the point. The girl does not live inside the house, okay. The girl lives outside the house, and though she lives outside the house, but she is the sweetest creature who grew beside a human door, okay. So Lucy Gray, she lives outside the house, but then also she is the sweetest one. So in the second stanza also the poet keeps talking about Lucy Gray. So right now it is completely evident to all of us that Lucy Gray is going to be the central figure. He is going to be the she is going to be the protagonist of this particular stanza. Now third stanza. Third stanza is telling that you yet may spy the fawn at play, the hare upon the green, but the sweet face of Lucy Gray will never more be seen. Once again, the poet has put all of us into a point of curiosity that why Lucy Gray's face cannot be seen more. The poet is telling you yet may spy the fawn at play. Fawn means, I mean, वो हिरन जो होता है उनका बच्चा. Okay, so if you want or if you try, you can find a fawn at play. You can find a hare, that means rabbit, at play. But the sweetest face of Lucy Gray will never more be seen. That means it is not possible for anyone to see the face of Lucy Gray. Though if one tries, one can see a fawn over there who is at play. One can find a hare or a rabbit over there who can play or who is at play, but the sweetest face of Lucy Gray can never be seen. So in this particular stanza, the poet gives us an indication that something happened to Lucy Gray, and Lucy Gray is no more right now. That is the reason Lucy Gray's face cannot be seen anymore. Now coming to stanza number 4. Tonight will be a stormy night. You to the town must go and take a lantern, child, to light your mother through the snow. Now see, this particular stanza has been given under quotation mark, okay, under inverted comma. That means this is not the dialogue of the narrator or the poet. Rather, it is someone else's dialogue. That tonight will be a stormy night. That means the person who is talking this line, he or she is telling to Lucy Gray that I am expecting a storm, I am expecting a great storm. So your mother is not there, your mother is out, and now it is your duty to take the lantern and to go out and to find out your mother. Okay. Now next stanza. Fifth stanza is telling that father, that means whose dialogue was the last stanza? It is the dialogue of Lucy Gray's father. That means this is the conversation is going on between Lucy Gray and her father. That father will I gladly do. That means Lucy Gray is telling that definitely father, I will obey you. I am very glad to obey you. I will go right now. I will go instant right now and I will find out my mother. It is scarcely afternoon. That means the time when the conversation is taking place is afternoon. The Minster Clock is another keyword for this story, has just struck 2. That means the time was around 2 p.m. Okay, yeah, and yonder is the moon. That means this particular stanza gives us a sense of horrible clouds or horrible or like a weather full of bad omens. Like Lucy Gray is saying, definitely father, as you have told me to go out and find out my mother, I will go. Right now the time is 2 p.m. okay, and I can see the moon over there. At 2 p.m. moon cannot be seen. That means it is one more indication that at that time when the conversation was taking place, at that time the sky was full of dense cloud. Okay, and the surrounding, the weather was very bad. The sky was so dark that even one could see the moon easily. This is this particular stanza is giving us 2 indications that this is the reason Lucy Gray's father was expecting a storm that night. Okay, and that is the reason he is ordering, we can say, Lucy Gray to take lantern and to go out and find out her mother. Okay, and one more thing is that Lucy Gray is an obedient girl. As soon as, though it was, Lucy Gray also could understand that the weather was very bad, but then also she is ready to follow her father's order or father's words, whatever we can say. Now stanza 6. At this, the father raised his hook and snapped a faggot band Faggot band, another keyword. He piled his work and Lucy took the lantern in her hand. So this stanza continues the story from the original speaker's point of view. He says that the father returned to his work and Lucy Gray had gone out. Lucy Gray went out to find out her mother with the lantern in her hand. Now stanza 7. Not breather is the mountain row with many a wanton stroke. Her feet dispersed the powdered snow that rises up like smoke. Okay. Powdered snow, another keyword, and that rises up like smoke, another key phrase. Now this particular stanza is giving us the pictorial sense of the weather when Lucy Gray was out to find out her mother. This stanza is telling us, not bleather is the mountain row with many wanton stroke. Her feet disperse the powdery snow that rises up like smoke. That means there was a great wind, there was a great storm over there, okay, and the wind was so wild, the wind was like a monster, that जितना सारा वहां पे जो स्नो था वो पाउडर जैसा उड़ रहा था. दैट मीन्स वन मोर थिंग वी कैन से दैट लूसीज फादर वाज एक्सपेक्टिंग द storm at night, but the storm came before the night, right? The storm came before night. The storm came in advance. As soon as Lucy went out, the storm came and Lucy could not walk properly as the snowy powder was, just rising up like smoke. It was just covering Lucy's path just in front of her. It was just making, creating a lot of problems. It was just, preventing Lucy to walk properly through the snow. But as she is very obedient and she is happy, she is ready to follow her father's words, so she just went out and she started finding her mother. Next stanza. The storm came on before its time. अभी मैंने कहा, right? The storm came on before its time. She wandered up and down. She wandered up and down. ये पूरा लाइन मार्क करो. ये की phrase है. You must use all these keywords and key phrases in your answer script to give it a more gorgeous look. Okay. The storm came on before its time. She wandered up and down, and many a hill did Lucy climb, but never reached the town. So this particular stanza is giving us a sense of horror. Or this stanza is putting us into apprehension that when Lucy was out, the storm came. It was a great and wild and monster-like wind was blowing. But then also Lucy tried. Lucy wandered up and down from one hill to another hill. Okay, but she could never reach the town. Lucy जो है वो कभी टाउन पहुंची ही नहीं. That means Lucy's mother had gone to the town for her work. That has not been mentioned in the story. So Lucy tried a lot but lost in the storm, and climbing hill after hill only to be lost in the storm. So Lucy lost her way and she was lost completely in the storm. She tried her level best, but then also she could not make out her way through the great and monster-like storm and to reach the town. Now stanza 9. The wretched parents, another keyword for Lucy's parents. Okay, the wretched parents all that night went shouting far and wide, but there was neither sound nor sight to serve them for a guide. So see one thing, there are some unspoken lines or unspoken dialogue between stanza 8 and 9. In stanza 8, it has been shown that Lucy has lost her way and she is lost in the storm. Okay. Then stanza 9 is telling that her wretched parents, they started finding Lucy. That means, some in between at some point Lucy's mother had returned home. Everyone got my point? In between stanza number 8 and 9, Lucy's mother had returned home, and when she returned home, she asked her husband, "Where is Lucy?" Her husband must think that I sent Lucy to find out for you, but definitely her mother told that, but she did not come to me. Then they started, they were anxious at that point of time. Okay, they just put themselves into an anxious state of mind, and they just went out in that particular stormy night, and they started finding Lucy. They were shouting, "Lucy, Lucy, Lucy," but they could neither get a single reply from Lucy, nor they got a single sight of Lucy, okay, to serve for a guide. So Lucy is no more right now, and Lucy is lost completely in the monster-like storm. At daybreak, in the first stanza we got daybreak. Please circle the term daybreak. Once again in stanza 10 we are getting daybreak, okay, and I will explain the significance of this particular term. At daybreak on a hill they stood that overlooked the moor, and thence they saw the bridge of wood. Bridge of wood, another keyword, please mark it, a furlong from their door. So when the day ends, at that time they were standing just on a hill, and from there they could see that there is a bridge of wood. Okay, they could see from the high hill that there is a bridge of wood, and they guessed that we might find Lucy there. So let's go there, and they started going near to the bridge. Now stanza 11, they wept and turning homeward cried, "In heaven we all shall meet." Please underline, and it is a key phrase, add it, write it in your answer script. In heaven we all shall meet. When in the snow the mother spied the print of Lucy's feet. Right now Lucy's mother got the footprint of Lucy. Lucy's mother got the footprint of Lucy, okay, and Lucy's mother guessed that we can say that she realized, okay, that Lucy is no more. Lucy passed away. That is the reason she started crying, and she told that in heaven we all shall meet. So this particular stanza is also showing us the maternal love of Lucy's mother, how much she loved her daughter, that she did not give up hope, rather she is extremely hopeful, and she is telling that we all shall meet in the heaven. That means no one can take away Lucy from me. I am the mother of Lucy, and I am giving her the birth. Okay, so it is impossible for anyone to take Lucy from her, and I know that Lucy is alive, and whatever, if Lucy is not alive, we shall meet in the heaven. And she started crying bitterly, she started crying hardly. Now stanza 12, then downwards from the steep hill's edge they tracked the footmarks small, and through the broken hawthorn edge and by the long stone wall. Hawthorn edge, another keyword, and long stone wall, another keyword. So from there, when she got the footmarks of Lucy, they started following the footprint. Okay, at first they saw that, oh my God, this is the bridge. This is the bridge, wooden bridge, and वहाँ पे हम लोग जाते हैं, वहाँ पे शायद लूसी हम लोग को मिल जाए. And they got the footprint on the hill, and they started following the footprints. That means किसी भी हालत में लूसी को ढूंढना है, किसी भी हालत में लूसी को ढूंढ के घर लाना है. Okay, they were determined. So we are also getting the characteristics of Lucy's parents, that they are determined, they are firm at their decision. So then downwards from the steep hill's edge they tracked the footmarks small, and through the broken hawthorn edge and by the long stone wall. So they started following the footprints, they started following the footmarks, okay, that went continuously, and they followed it, and they reached to the bridge. Stanza 13, and then an open field they crossed. वहां से फुटप्रिंट जो है उसे फॉलो करते 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 वो बुशेस के ऊपर से वो फुटप्रिंट उन लोगों को लेके गया। ओके, स्टोन वॉल था और उसके बाद एक ओपन फील्ड था, उस फील्ड के ऊपर से भी उन लोगों को वो फुटप्रिंट वो लोग फॉलो करते करते आगे पहुंच गया। द मार्क्स वेर स्टिल द सेम एंड same they tracked them on nor ever lost, and to the bridge they came, and following the footprints at last they came to the bridge. Now stanza 14. They followed from the snowy bank those footmarks one by one into the middle of the plank, another keyword, and further there were none. What? So they started following the footmarks from the hill. One by one they started following, they kept following, and finally the footmarks brought them to the bridge. And coming to the bridge, they found that there was not a single footmark. So that means ये भी हो सकता है कि when Lucy वो ब्रिज क्रॉस कर रही थी, okay, she could not resist herself, she could not help herself, and she fell from the bridge and died. And यही जो है, यही जो थॉट है गेस किया था लूसी के पेरेंट्स ने भी। इनटू द मिडिल ऑफ द प्लैंक एंड फर्दर देयर वेर नो मोर, देयर वेर none. So they started following, they kept following the footprints of Lucy, and when they reached to the bridge, they found none. Stanza 15. Yet some maintain that to these days she is the living child. She is the living child. Key phrase, use it in your answer script. That you may see sweet Lucy Gray upon the lonesome wind. Upon the lonesome wild. Lonesome wild is another keyword. So, but people can't believe that Lucy is no more, and still she is a living child. And sometimes one can see Lucy where in the lonesome wild. That means कुछ मान लो कि एकदम लोनसम फॉरेस्ट है, ठीक है, वहां पे कभी कभार जो लोग जो है वो लूसी को देख पाते हैं। द स्वीट फेस ऑफ लूसी। स्टैंजा 16. Over the rough and smooth she trips along. She trips along, another keyword. Over the rough and smooth she trips along and never looks behind, and sings a solitary song. Solitary song, another keyword, that whistles in the wind. So sometimes Lucy is found, sometimes Lucy can be seen in lonesome wild forest, and she never looks back. Lucy never looks back. And what does she do? She always sings a solitary song that the whistles in the wind, like the wind is showing its sympathy, its empathy to Lucy, that Lucy, you sing the song. It is a solitary song. Why it is a solitary song? Because Lucy is a small child. She does not have any friend, and definitely she also loves her parents a lot. But right now it is not possible for Lucy to be with her. Why? Because this is not Lucy. Rather, this is Lucy's spirit. That is the reason. That is the reason Lucy can be seen lonely in the forest or in the wild and lonesome wild. Okay, and one more thing, just point it out. Lucy is seen when at the daybreak. That means when day ends. You can find a fawn at play in the daytime, you can find a hare or rabbit playing at the daytime, but at that particular time Lucy is not seen. Lucy is seen only when the day breaks. That means when the day ends. And Lucy does not have any friend. Why Lucy does not have any friend? Because it is not Lucy, rather it is Lucy's spirit. And Lucy, though it is a spirit, but Lucy is feeling extremely lonely. Why? Because this is not the age for her to be apart from from her parents. But this is luck, nothing else. Lucy is no more right now, and Lucy is no more with her parents. That is the reason she is very sad, and she sings a solitary song. In fact, even the wind is feeling so sad for Lucy that the wind is kind of telling Lucy that, Lucy, you sing the song and I will carry the song to your parents. The wind has been personified, the air has been personified in this particular line. Okay, Lucy is singing the solitary song, and the air is helping Lucy to carry the song to her parents, like the wind also wants her parents to know that really don't feel sad, don't be sad, because Lucy is still there and still Lucy loves both of you. So here we have come to the end of this story. Now we are coming to the theme of this story. First of all, love is the first theme of this poem, because Lucy loves her parents a lot. That is the reason she cannot be alone. On the other hand, Lucy's parents also love her a lot. That is the reason they were firm at their decision and they tried their level best to find out their daughter. Okay, love is the first theme of this story, of this poem. And emotion, yeah, definitely many emotions are there, like, you know, people cannot believe that Lucy is no more, and that is the reason Lucy has been treated, Lucy has been considered as a living child in this particular poem, and here has been personified in the last line of this poem. And one more thing is that the justification of title, the justification of very important, like, see, from the very beginning, or we can say that the plot of this poem is with Lucy only. Lucy is the central figure of this particular poem. Lucy is the central figure of this particular poem, and everything has been talked about Lucy only. That is the reason we can say Lucy Gray is the particular title for this poem. So this is the complete explanation of this poem, and I hope you all have understood the poem. There is no problem at all. But then also, if you have any problem, you face any problem, you can write on the comment section, or my phone number has been given in the description box. Please check it out. Don't forget to like the story, like the explanation, like the poem, and please share with your friends so that they would also be benefited. See you in our next video. Till then, goodbye and God bless you.